Please welcome President of Games for Change, Susanna Pollack.
Good morning, everyone. It is so great to see all of you here at the 21st Annual Games for Change Festival. I am so excited that I get to see so many new faces, along with all of the familiar faces that we've seen, for the past 21 years. And we have people that have come from all over the world, from Brazil, from Melbourne, Australia, to Cape Town in South Africa, to Nigeria, Kenya, Dubai, the Netherlands, Germany, Poland. I know there's a lot of people from a lot of places around the world, and I deeply, deeply thank you for giving us your time and coming here to be inspired at the Games for Change Festival. It is great to be back at Parsons, right? It's awesome. So we had a wonderful opportunity to hold the Games for Change Festival here at Parsons, the new school, for about 5 years before the pandemic, and it took us a while to get back, but we're thrilled and really want to thank everyone for having us and having us back in what we feel is our home. Now, you may not realize that for over a century, Parsons has attracted creators who are driving inspiration and collaboration to drive impact. And if you're here today, you deeply understand that it's going to take all of our efforts and our creative means to help make the world a better place. And that's what the next 2 days of the festival is all about. We are going to celebrate creativity and the way creativity and collaboration drive impact. And our theme this year is the 2030 marker, a catalyst for social change, which calls on all of us to play a role in helping the United Nations 2030 agenda, working towards the Sustainable Development Goals called SDGs. And if you're not familiar with the Sustainable Development Goals, it's a framework that the UN and its agencies use to help address how we're going to solve the world problems. There are 17 goals, and throughout the program on our app, you'll see that each of these sessions we've identified with one or more of the goals, and they range from education to reducing poverty to gender equality, and it sits so well as a framework for our work here at Games for Change too. So in creating the 2030 agenda, the UN set the table, but it's all up to us to claim our seats. Last year, as part of our 20th anniversary festival, we held the very first Games and SDG Summit at the UN's Delegates Dining Room. This summit started a dialogue that we're excited to continue this year at the festival. And we are going to have opportunities for you to connect with UN agencies and global NGOs, with impact leaders and creators in gaming and XR to explore new ideas and modes of collaboration. So over the next 2 days, you'll have an opportunity to connect with UN representatives, including the World Food Program, the UN Environment Program, NGOs like the International Rescue Committee. We have UNICEF here. We have UN Live and the Museum of the UN. It's just remarkable how much this community is interested in working with our sector, and there's so much that we can do together. That's what you're going to hear a lot from me today and others, is that these next 2 days are about opportunities for collaboration and connection across sectors, geography, and issue areas. And that's why we've made sure that there are a lot of ways in which you do engage with others in our communities. We have topic tables, which is new for our festival this year. It's an opportunity to connect with experts in different fields. It is registration required. I think today's sessions are full, but there might be opportunities to join it for tomorrow. And I think you can pre-order lunch. It is worth saying that lunch is on site this year. You can go to the cafeteria to purchase lunch. You don't have to go into the area, so hopefully that'll give you more time to connect with people here. We also have other sessions like speed networking. Did a few of you get up early this morning and participate at 8:30 speed networking? What a great way to exercise, right? Those networking muscles. Well, we'll have it again tomorrow morning. We also have the G4C Awards Arcade. We have the Immersive Arcade extension, which is at Onassis at Onyx on 53rd Street. That's worth checking out too. Their hours span longer and go on to the weekend if you want to check that out. And then, of course, tonight's G4C Awards ceremony and reception. So we encourage you to take advantage of all of these opportunities. Go into our G4C app. There are connecting features to request meetings. And on the 5th floor, there are dedicated tables, which can be used to arrange for you guys to meet new people. So before I wrap up what we're saying, I want to say that I really hope that you're going to leave here feeling more of a sense of community, and that we truly are a global force for good. So we're going to kick off the session today after a few opening remarks with speakers from UN agencies, World Food Program, Environment Programs, Playing for the Planet, and the International Rescue Committee. And we hope that they are going to offer some ideas for collaboration and concrete action items that you can take as you take away from the session. I'm going to do a really, really quick warm-up, just really quick to get your kind of connections flowing. And I'm going to ask you just to turn to your person left or right and share what was the last game you played. It could be a console game, a mobile game, a tabletop game, a board game. What was the last game you played, and who'd you played with? You have 15 seconds, go. Awesome. That's it? Okay. I asked for it. Okay. All right. Shh. Shh. All right. That was awesome. That's awesome. Where you can continue all those conversations in the many networking areas throughout the day. I didn't have a chance to say who I played with, but I can tell you that my last game, as it is every morning over coffee, was New York Times Connections. All right, so we're going to get the day started. So I'd like you to help me welcome a longtime supporter of Games for Change and of the games industry in New York City itself, my dear friend Aaliyah Jones-Harvey. She is works at the Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment as an Associate Commissioner of Workforce Development and Educational Initiatives. Please welcome Aaliyah.
Thank you. Thank you, Susanna. To quote Paul Clolery in selecting Susanna Pollock as an honoree of the Nonprofit Times Power and Influence Top 50 list, Games for Change has become an important influencer in the sector. It is a sandbox in its own right, and Pollock is pound of this realm. Congratulations to you and the team here at Games for Change, and welcome to everyone here for the 21st Annual Games for Change Festival. It has been so gratifying to witness the festival grow as more developers and publishers use games and immersive media to have a positive impact on the world. I'm thrilled to be here on the behalf of the New York City Mayor's Office of Media and Entertainment as at the largest gaming industry event in New York City and the largest industry-facing event for social impact games globally. New York City values and supports the creative industries, and let this sink in. This mayor, this administration has an office dedicated to digital games and workforce development. As part of Mayor Adams' economic blueprint for New York City, we are working to make the city a hub for digital game development and production. Here are 3 investments that we are making to support the future of this industry. First, the mayor announced a $2 million investment in the first public bachelor's degree in game design at City College of New York. Called Gaming Pathways, the program also brings game design classes and programs to high school students through our partners at Urban Arts and the Harlem Gallery of Science. Second, our partners at the New York City Economic Development Corporation announced the creation of a new digital gaming incubator at NYU's Tandon School of Engineering. The New York City Game Design Future Lab will offer mentorship, workshops, investor outreach, access to new technologies, and networking. And third, New York City's Summer of Games is back. We've kicked off the Summer of Games with our second annual Mayor's Cup, Battle of the Boroughs Minecraft Challenge. Building on the success of our first in-person qualifier and final rounds in 2023, Minecraft Education, C40 Reinventing Cities, and the City of New York teamed up for this year's citywide esports competition on June 8th, and it was held at the Brooklyn Public Library. Guided by the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, you just heard about those, and our city's climate and environmental justice plan, elementary, middle, and high school students teamed up to compete to shape the future of New York City by building inclusive, future-ready spaces based on real city redevelopment projects. This year, submissions grew to over 3,000 students from 130 schools. We welcomed 45 expo partners to share playable games, VR experiences, and college and career information to over 750 students that attended with their parents, teachers, and fans. So please visit our website at nyc.gov/digital games for more information about these events and the New York City Summer of Games. We will continue to seek out ways to level up support for our growing developer community in New York City, and I'm happy to say that it is growing, and bring visibility to the many phenomenal games being developed in the creative capital of the world. Enjoy your time here in New York City and at the 21st Annual Games for Change Festival. Thank you.
So, as I said, we are thrilled to be here at Parsons. And I don't know if you know, you should know, that Parsons has an incredible game design program. And it has graduated innovative and some daring game designers for over a decade. So this morning, we have Program Director of the Design and Technology Department, Kyle Lee, who's going to welcome everyone on behalf of Parsons, the new school. Please welcome Kyle.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Kyle Lee. I am many things. I love games. And when I came to Parsons as a student, I realized I can actually make games. And that just no turning back for me. So my body of work has a lot of physical components and digital component kind of work together as a sort of a communicative mediums. And I was very fortunate when I graduated from the program. I start working in education sectors. So I think the best way to talk about this is because the first job that I got when I hired here, I work on the Games for Change 2007. So I was very excited. This is like a homecoming moment for me. After 17 years, I get to kind of look back and what I have done with what I know and use that for good. So I want to talk about my work kind of through this quote from a movie that I really love in 2013 called The Grandmasters. And at the very end, one of the protagonists say that to become a Kung Fu master, you have to go through 3 stages in your life. And the first stage is to see yourself. The second stage is to see heaven and earth, which is see the world. And the third phase is after you've done that, you kind of give the world your reflections on what you have been through. And I think that is a really good way to sum up the sort of a creative career that I have so far. So I started here in the MFA Design Technology as a graduate student. I came here to want to learn more about web, and I ended up did nothing about web because I was introduced to physical computing, which I can build my own game controllers. And that just changed the game for me. I have never done any web because I really don't like CSS. And I done a lot of things, creative coding. I went and kind of replaced my love of animations. We do installations. So it was like an open world to me that I realized the design that I know can apply to any kind of media, not just digital. And after I graduated, I was working on this project called Quest to Learn. And I also, in the process of preparing for this talk, I realized a lot of my Quest to Learn colleagues are now working at Game for Change. So that's my second homecoming. If you have worked at Quest to Learn, hi, I'm back. So Quest to Learn is, I remember reading a newspaper article about it when it first came out. The New York Times says it's a school where students go to school and play video games. That's really not it. Our video game, the digital game is probably only, I would say, 10%, even or less, of all the games or playful experiences that we created for students. And throughout that process, I designed games, over, I think, 30 of them for different kind of curriculum. We work with teachers. We're looking at the limitations of traditional classrooms, and we think about any kind of embodiments or playful, physically playful environments to talk about some of the more challenging concepts to kind of explain in a classroom setup. So throughout that process, I learned a few things, and I'm really fortunate in that process, I got to learn with some of the best playful learning designer or learning experts in the field, including some of them are working at Quest to Learn right now. I learned that to create experiences, we have to worry about a few things. And those 4 are the top 4 most important things when you think about playful experiences, which is need to know. We want to create need to know in students. We want to create need to share in students, opportunity to share, and channels for disseminations. And to talk about this in a deeper level, like in terms of how our brain works, is that every time you think about something, you want to make a critical decision in a playful experiences, if what's going through in your head is the things we want to teach them or communicate it to them, that creates a connection there, right? And this really goes back to some of the early research that the Sesame workshop was doing, is if you can get students focused, then you can teach them something. So after I done with Quest to Learn in 2014, I start to kind of bring what I learned from working really upfront with students. It was really one of the best experiences because when you make games or game makers, usually really hard to get player feedbacks. But when we work at Quest to Learn, it's on a daily basis, and students just walking around and running around in the space, and they hold nothing back. If they don't like your games, they will make you know. But if you make a really fun game, that is the best rewarding moment ever. So I took some of the experiences and start to take those practice to other places. So one of the project that I did is I took that, and I took a group of students from MFA DT who went to Japan, and to use the same thing that I know to look at some of the aging problems, and also the local business, how reinventing their business to make it more about the modern times. And through that, using Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, to look at how would that support Asian society in Japan. It was a really fun project. We stayed there for 3 weeks. We did it for 2 years. And students got really attached to the senior citizen there. We have this grandma who come to our playtesting and presentation all the time. She's 96 years old in 2016, and she runs a hotel right next to our workshop. It was really cool. It was wonderful experiences. And that also I learned that a lot of things that I learned to work with students, to think about from their point of view and how would they learn, how can we make the process of communication easier for them, is really had a lot of overlap with what we think what user-centered design is. And that kind of a really good transitions, a lot of principles and guidelines make sense, and through the process. So I start to kind of, in the second part, start to take what I know around the world it's kind of tested. Like a Kung Fu master, you go to other people's dojo and you fight with them and you learn from them, kind of like that. And at the same time, at Parsons, we start building technologies for interaction designer, because Parsons has over 30 different design programs. Not all of them are interactive. Some of them are research-based, but DT is a very hands-on, interactive-based program. So we want university to kind of support us on different technology. And in 2017, we built, there's a few motion tracking lab in Brooklyn, kind of went out of business. So we built sort of a motion tracking lab at the university. And the whole process of putting the technology together and looking at all the different technology options, we decided to go with the industrial grade setup, because that really support the research intention that we wanted to. So this idea of critical on the technology is also a part of my job here being a teacher, is I looking at all the popular technology and thinking about how would design students take advantage of it, how would it benefit design students. Oh, okay. After that, I started to think about, anything that we do for communication, we have to make it fun and interesting. So I got really interested in physical interface. So over the past couple of years, I experiment a lot with physical controllers, because that is our gateway to immersive experiences. And last year, we worked with Roblox. And Roblox is interested in talking about digital fashions. And they came to us, and we designed the first sort of a digital fashion course on the graduate level for them. And this is really sort of looking at the kind of digital content creator that we're training now, and what different skill set they need to be equipped at looking at 10 years from now, right? Because platform like Roblox has created a lot of new pathway for younger people to get in. And we find out in the process that a lot of younger creators for Roblox, they don't come to college. Because they're making money, they know how to do everything by the time they're 15 or 16. So how does graduate students here, how does future of content creator here to catch up with that career opportunity? It's something that we had really fun looking into and compare and talk to people in the field about it. We create a collections of digital fashion items, and we actually have a store on Roblox for students to post their work. So many things on here. After the Roblox, I went on to do, I had a summer project that went with UNESCO, and we went to Thailand and looking at how immersive media can help Thailand to reserve, or other Southeast country to reserve digital medias and distribute them, or having a life of their cultures in the virtual world. And I really kind of start to see what I was doing around the physical controller, how some of the early days with AR kind of become part of this. And now we're looking at spatial computations, and we're looking at immersive design. This is really sort of fun to see, to feel, and eventually to live those experiences. And this is where I am right now. The company that I work with, who building tools for artists and designer, I really want to talk to you about it, but I don't have time. But we're building tools for artists and designers who are not technical savvy, can actually build sophisticated content with those tools without coding, without other sort of technical burdens. So you can bring your contents to the MR, to the XR really quickly. So this is where I am in right now. And I think everyone at Parsons kind of doing similar things. So if you imagine what you just said, what you just see, multiply by 1,300, that's how our body of faculties are. That's really the wide perspective of what Parsons is doing. So welcome back, Games for Change. This is an awesome place for you. Thank you so much. Hold on.
Morning. I'm Marana Shapiro, Chief Operating and Program Officer at Games for Change. I'm excited to kick off day one with a keynote fireside chat that promises to level up our understanding of the UN's Sustainable Development Goals. Join us for an engaging discussion on why the games industry matters to the UN and how, as a community, we can contribute to their critical work. Our esteemed speakers include Kai Young, Senior Program Manager at the World Food Program, Deborah Mensah-Bonsu, Founder and CEO of Games for Good, Jason Gonzalez, Tech and Gaming Officer at the Global Corporate Partnerships at the International Rescue Committee, and as moderator, Susanna Pollack.
Thank you. Thank you all for being here. All right, now we're really going to get going. I'm so excited to start the festival with a session that features people who have been working at the UN and with the UN for many years, and that can offer some insights on what is happening within the UN programs and the games industry. I'm going to let each of our speakers tell us a little bit about the organization that you represent, and then also, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about some history of what game projects or game-related projects that have happened within your tenure or what you know about over the years.
So thank you, Susanna. So my name is Jason. I'm with the IRC, International Rescue Committee. I'm a full-time staff member dedicated to gaming partnerships, and we're a team of 2. And what we do is work alongside the gaming sector to further our humanitarian mission. We respond in the moments after a natural disaster or a conflict arises, and we're with refugees, people who have been displaced from their homes, uprooted, all the way through the process of reestablishing life in a new and welcoming and inclusive community. And we're the largest resettlement organization in the United States. So each year we help 13,000 people in the US find new jobs, re-enroll in school, receive food, shelter, and all of the necessities of life.
And you were the first games officer. Mm-hmm. Is that your title?
Yep, exactly.
The first games officer.
Cool
That's
title.
awesome.
Yeah.
And so what have you been doing?
For the last 18 months, we've been working alongside the community and industry members of gaming to reach gamers, of course, because you're all experts in your communities and your audiences, and we're experts in our humanitarian work. And we've just seen so much alignment with values. For example, last week alone with Pokemon Go, Niantic's mobile game, we reached over 9 million people around the world in 4 key markets to share the importance of having a safe and secure home to return to. And that was really a nice alignment with Niantic's mission, which is to get out their players in the community to explore and learn more. And really, sometimes we joke that I should not be on the fundraising team and I should be on the comms team, because it's all about finding that unique story to tell and just kind of resonating with people's hearts. Another, for example, story was with indie studio Muse Games and publisher Koali with the game Wildmender. And in the game, the creators were so passionate about our work, they came up with this concept of a downloadable content, a hat, excuse me, a hat with a yellow band on it, and that represents the protection the IRC offers to our clients who have been affected by climate crises, because the game centers around gardening in the desert and reviving life within such a climate-stricken environment. So some really cool stuff.
So it's really interesting. So you are marrying the kind of the sharing of information to help build awareness, right, and develop empathy for as you call your clients, right? So people around the world that are dealing with many different challenges, as well as fundraising, because that is, you're saying you are in the fundraising department, right? And the opportunity to reach millions of players to give donations, right? I mean, and it is a very generous community.
Yes, yeah. Definitely.
I want to talk to Kai, because when I was, preparing the session and looking at the history of games associated with the UN, it's actually one of the first games, Free Rice, that many of you guys know about. That, right? I mean, seriously, it's an amazing, amazing game that started how many years ago?
Put me on the spot. Predates me 15 years ago. It's been a while.
Yeah. So why don't you talk a little bit about the World Food Program and some.
Sure.
Yeah.
Happy to, but just to share with this group, I played Candy Crush this morning.
Okay, very good.
Which might say a lot about me and my age. But, I'm here representing the World Food Program. It's the largest humanitarian aid organization in the world. fighting hunger. I have notes, it's just, there'll be some numbers, so I don't want to misspeak. At any given time, we have 6,500 trucks, 140 aircraft in the sky, and 20 ships at sea delivering not just food and services for WFP, but for the entire humanitarian community, providing logistics services for the entire humanitarian community. In 2023, we served 152 million people in 120 countries around the world with aid and service. Tremendous number. The need is greater. There's over 300 million people in the world facing acute hunger. That number's risen to pre-pandemic levels, and it's been a challenge for the organization. The way we go about our work is through what we call our saving lives and changing lives agenda. Certainly through the rising conflict, change in the climate change and economic shocks, we save lives by immediate distribution of food and resources and support, but also sort of deepening and changing lives by working with farmers at the community level to create a market for them for our school meals program, working with governments on resilience programs to be prepared for the next climate emergency and other pieces. So that's a bit of what we do, a little bit of everything, but a lot of immediate emergencies that are growing, unfortunately, but then certainly looking long-term of how do we help these communities help themselves over the long term. You mentioned free rice, but I want to take it back to even before that, and I was hopeful to have the CD-ROM. I could have sworn I saw it in the office, but in 2005, we launched a game called Food Force.
Food Force.
Which was a CD-ROM-based game created by WFP that really helped tell the story of what we do. 6 different missions you could play, including airdrop simulation and ground transport, avoiding landmines and other roadblocks, and purchasing and receiving products and services during emergencies. In 6 years, since when that was launched in 2005, 6 million downloads in 18 countries. At the time, a lot of reach, a lot of education. That was the aim, was education. And since then, we've continued to dabble in the space and had great success doing so. Free rice was mentioned, and I appreciate the applause for those who understood it. Share the Meal is a very recent innovation that we have. I don't know if there's any applause or familiarity with Share the Meal.
But you should look it up.
It's an app that we have, thank you. Maybe that's my colleague.
You should applause, but you should look it up.
It's a downloadable app for donating and peer-to-peer donating and getting involved on it's a fundraising app, but it's been wildly successful and award-winning. But yeah, again, we just dipped our toe in the water and being opportunistic. Because of the work that we do, we haven't taken advantage of the opportunity to deepen our engagement with the gaming sector.
That's why you're here.
And that's why we're here, is really to say that we are putting together and have put together a strategy to be more present, to be more willing to engage, to raise our hands to you all, to say, let's talk, let's find ways to tell our story, to help train our staff around the world, to help behavior change at the local level on nutrition programs or whatever it may be, and start to work together. So I think really thrilled by the opportunity and the chance to engage with this vibrant community, and say that WFP really wants to get serious and engage.
It's going to be in the game.
So thank you, Suzanne, for all you've done with us.
No, I'm
Thank
really
you.
excited to see where it's going. It's going to be great. So Deborah,
Yes.
I know that you have worked very closely with the UN Environment Program, and were one of the architects around Playing for the Planet. And I was wondering if many of our audience may be familiar with it, but I think it's such an interesting and well-developed program. I'd love you, if you wouldn't mind, give everyone a sense of what it is and how you engage with the industry.
Sure. So hi, everyone. Really nice to be here. I feel a bit far away because there's this table.
I was going to say,
I'm going to
yeah.
move
Should
the
we move
table so we can be, no, that'll be a bit disruptive probably. You work on that while I, yeah, so Playing for the Planet, it was founded back in 2019 at the UN Climate Summit, and it's an alliance of studios basically trying to bring the industry together to decarbonize. So currently we have 49 members, and it's a mix of studios as well as trade associations and some platforms. So looking for a 50th member, if anyone is out there who's a game studio would like to join. And the goal of Playing for the Planet is for everyone who's a member has to make commitments every year to try to mitigate their emissions and also account for their footprint, and then report on those every year. And then that's sort of the one side of playing for the planet. And the other side, a big initiative that we run every year is called the Green Game Jam. So one side is the business, the studio, how do you account for the work that you're doing there? And then the other is how do we reach our billions of players, right? So the Green Game Jam this year is in its 5th year, so we've reached a bit of a milestone. We started with 11 studios back in 2020, and now we have over 80 games participating this year, which is really exciting. And the whole point there is to try to reach audiences about different environmental subjects and themes, engage players with games that are already out in the wild.
I think that's what's so interesting. When we think about game jams, we think about the creation of new prototypes. But can you talk a little bit more about what kind of games are participating? And
Yeah, so normally, like you said, when we think of a game jam, we think about like, okay, you've got 24, 48 hours to come up with some kind of prototype for a new game. But this jam is all about tweaking your existing games, often games with massive audiences because we're really trying to reach scale with the Green Game Jam. And then every year we have a different theme, and then studios will jam and innovate on their existing titles to incorporate some kind of environmental messaging or event or fundraising scheme so that we can, try to use that influence now as opposed to maybe in 3-4 years if a game comes out. So
when's the next Green Game Jam?
So currently, it's almost like running all the time because it's not just 24 or 48 hours. It's kind of running throughout the year. So right now, studios are finishing up their designs, and implementation should happen around September, October, which means you're going to see a bunch of environmental content live in games around September or October. And then, the next sort of Green Game Jam will kick off pretty soon after that. We'll have the awards for the Green Game Jam in November, as well as Green Game Awards for the first time, as well in general, for anyone who may have not entered the jam. But
So what I heard a lot about, particularly what you were talking about, is like the process of co-design, right? And we've talked about how programs and initiatives can be used with games to build awareness, to educate, to fundraise, to bring communities together. But it's obviously they underscore the importance of the design process that's focused on the co-creation to shape new ideas. So when you collaborate with certain studios or big initiatives, is there any advice that you can give about how to ensure, authenticity? Because that's to when I think about that, I think about putting a new spin or tweaking into a game that already has audiences. You have to do it with authenticity, right? Because it's just not going to work otherwise. Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, happy to open it up. I think my key advice is to take the call, take my call, be open to conversation, and like you said, co-creating and being transparent about your goals. Because we as a nonprofit, sure, we're new to the gaming space, but we're dedicated to it. We have organizational commitment to being in the gaming space with your community members, your players, your fans, your consumers, and your employees too. So we want to spitball with you. We want to do some virtual whiteboarding and just leave it at that for me.
I mean, obviously, the co-creation process. I mean, that's the heart of what the Green Game Jam is, right?
Yeah, I think a few things when it comes to this collaboration piece. I think one is really important is do your homework. I think if you're on either side, I think sometimes these collaborations between games and NGOs can be mismatched, or something that I see a lot as well because I work with studios on implementing these things within games. And often, I do get approached by lots of different NGOs or charities, et cetera. And I think sometimes the attitude can be, hey, games industry, or you're a game, can we now do this with your game? Because we'd love to talk about X subject with your game. But there are so many different games out there and so many different kinds of audiences and people who play them. So I think it's super important that if you're an NGO or a charity, that you think about why this game, why this studio, what are the values of this studio? Do they align with our values? What's going to be interesting to players specifically around the work that we do. So coming in with a little bit of the legwork done before talking to a studio is really important, I think. And then on the other side as well, if you're a studio looking for a partner, like discernment, this space is getting really crowded, and it's gonna just get more and more crowded, and you're gonna find lots of bad actors as well. So it's really important, I think, to do your due diligence and find organizations that are credible, that are really going to align with the work that you want to do long term.
I think that's really great advice. We only have a few more minutes left. Before, I want to just talk a little bit more about the fundraising aspect, because at often at Games for Change, we really talk a lot about, more about the kind of impact and how games can be transformative, which obviously they are, and we wouldn't have this community if we didn't believe that. But we're seeing also tremendous success in fundraising through directed at the games community, and then also the game studios themselves and the generosity there. There was huge success with Fortnite and Microsoft, right? The response to Ukraine. I think something like $200 million, was raised in a couple of weeks. What if you were to make some recommendations about how those kind of partnerships align? I would love to, to hear about it. I think you've done some creative partnerships.
Yeah, I think we've all done really creative partnerships in our own ways, and fundraising is essential to keep our humanitarian work alive, and that's why we're reaching out to you for assistance. But we also want to make it sustainable, and I think that's something we all share in common is sustainable partnerships. And so we're always happy to do the legwork like Deb suggested and make those matches on the back end, but we can only get so far. For example, we have really cool immersive learning programs that use gaming-driven technology with headsets to help newcomers in the US learn their new communities without added stress. So if anybody out here wants to work on that, we can always brainstorm and just throw
And these
it
are
out there.
like VR headsets, so they can simulate experiences.
Navigating their community, navigating schools or healthcare systems, et cetera.
I think that's great. Well, there's some great VR experiences up here too, and amazing partners, and I'm sure would be well suited, right, for that kind of work. Which leads me to my last question. We've got 400 or 500 people in the audience, many of which are game studios and other NGOs that would like to explore how to be part of Playing for the Planet or support WFP or the IRC. How do you go about making those kind of brainstorming opportunities?
I'll start. I think for the World Food Program, first of all, I'm here for the next couple of days, so find me and my colleague who's somewhere in the room. We'd love to start these discussions. But beyond that, beyond the traditional social media, LinkedIn, things like this, we are actively present at all of the UN engagements going forward. Summit for the Future is an event happening at UN General Assembly Week here in New York. That's an opportunity. I will also plug this wonderful platform and organization and work that we'll be doing together, hopefully with student challenges and other pieces going forward. So I think we're hopeful to continue to leverage this partnership and Planet to reach each other. But again, just say we are open for business and happy to have conversations. I think the work that the organization does is perfectly suited for the game space. Time-sensitive operations, strategic thinking about accomplishing goals under distressing and ever-changing situations.
Sounds like a great game.
Right? And I don't want to diminish the work, but just to say I think there's a story to be told.
That's great.
And a rich platform by which to do it through you all.
Deborah, what about Playing for the Planet? How do people get involved?
Yeah, so step one, definitely check out the website. If you are a studio that's interested in membership, you can find contact details there, and somebody from the team will walk you through the membership process and what does it look like to write a commitment letter, what are the right kinds of commitments for your studio to make. Another thing as well, next week we're actually launching the beta version of a carbon calculator that's been designed with studios, and that will later then be released to the public. And this is also for not just people who are directly working sustainability, but like an HR manager could be using this tool. So it's very accessible. I would also say if you're maybe an indie or a smaller studio, because Playing for the Planet generally deals with some of the larger studios, then the IGDA Climate SIG is a really, really great place for you to find community around this topic of environmentalism. It's a really great grassroots place. So yeah, there are lots of different ways to engage, but those are some.
And last but not least, Jason, you have created an opportunity later today or tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow I'll be hosting a topic table at lunchtime, so if you haven't registered, go ahead if there's still space. Otherwise, find me or my colleague Christy here by searching IRC in your Games for Change app, or message me on Discord at Jason_rescue.
Great. Well, I want to thank you all for joining us today. It's a great way to kick off the festival with an inspirational conversation. You know, it takes a village, and I know that this audience here in our community are excited to support and get involved. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Say, we know we're behind this morning. We are going to start all of the sessions in the secondary, in the other rooms, after we wrap up here. So I know we had said that those rooms are going to start at 11. So just to let you know, there's nowhere to go. There's nothing else going on. So come back and have a seat because we've got a couple more great sessions for you. In December, I'm going to come over here. So in December, with the support, I'll stay here. And then we can do that. With the support of Google Play and HP, Games for Change launched the second edition of the Diverse Voices News Stories Challenge, a program designed to increase visibility and support underrepresented stories, creators, and games. Following an open call of submissions and a rigorous judging process involving dozens of game submissions from 25 countries from around the world, we are excited to share the results of that challenge and some updates. So please help me welcome John Chung from Google Play to the stage. Do you want to come up here? Or do you want to do it from there?
We'll stand right here.
Okay,
All
great.
We'll move around as we go.
Okay.
Thanks, Susanna. At Google Play, we believe that mobile gaming has the potential to inspire community, build connections between people, and serve as a gateway to new worlds and passions. We are committed to making mobile gaming more inclusive so that all players can feel represented and welcome. And we are working to make that future a reality. Over the last 2 years, we've partnered with Games for Change on the Diverse Voices and News Stories Challenge, a game design challenge with 2 goals: to foster exciting and new developers from historically overlooked backgrounds, as well as highlight the amazing stories and games that they're telling through diverse characters, unique voices, and untold stories. Today, I am honored to announce the winners of the 2023-2024 challenge. The overall challenge winner and recipient of the $10,000 grand prize is Button City, a cozy narrative adventure game created by Subliminal Gaming. We are also excited to recognize 3 additional games with honorable mentions: Puzzle Scout, created by a Ghanaian game studio, Leti Arts; Songs of Travel, created by Austrian developer Kaza Creations; and also Don't Forget, created by Belgian developer Digital Arts and Entertainment. Huge congratulations to these winners.
So now, please help me give a warm welcome to the winner of the challenge, Subliminal Games, and we are joined by Shandine.
So Shandine, congratulations again on winning.
Thank you.
Yeah. For those of us who aren't familiar with the game, what makes it so special?
So at the heart of Button City, it's a game about community. It's about taking care of the people around us, as well as the places where these communities gather. So in Button City, we wanted to touch on some deeper topics, but do it through an approachable lens. So with colorful graphics, cute characters, and a focus on being earnest and sentimental, we really wanted to create a story that was accessible, where people could explore some of those deeper topics.
That's amazing. What does it mean to you and your team to be able to release this game? Like, why was it important for you to tell this story?
Mm-hmm. Well, as a creative, it's always amazing to see people have fun playing games, but it's also great to see people really engage with the stories, relate to the characters, and kind of see themselves and be inspired by what they're playing. And we're also a small team, and we're Indigenous-led, so being able to have these opportunities to release, to reach new audiences, and getting recognition like this helps us to move on to new projects, tell new stories, and keep our studio sustainable.
Awesome. You talked about like telling new stories and being able to reach more folks. Like, we're lucky enough to be gathered by champions and leaders across the gaming ecosystem in the audience today. What would be one lesson or nugget of wisdom you'd want to share with our community?
Don't be afraid to draw from your own life, your experiences, things you're interested in. In Button City, we drew on from the communities in the arcades that we would go to, local gaming tournaments, even our own game development communities and friends. And we kind of wove those together into the story we were telling. And I think if you do that and draw from something true to yourself, your passion will show through and you get to share it with other people.
Awesome.
Wow. Thank you so much. And wait, before you go up, I want to give you this. I'll trade you. And this is for you. And so the winning game, Button City, can be played at the Festival Arcade up on the second floor. So you please check it out. And I want to say congratulations, Shandine, and to Subliminal Games.
Thank you.
Can you take this out too? All right, we're not done yet.
We're not done yet.
We're not done yet.
There's more surprises.
In addition to revealing the winners of last year's challenge, we are thrilled to announce the continuation of our partnership with Google Play for the third year with the Diverse Voices News Stories Challenge, which launches tomorrow. With a continued focus on fostering the next generation of storytelling, the third edition of the program will support bringing some of the best games and their stories from PC and console and other platforms to mobile for the first time. And this time, 3 winners will each receive $15,000 cash prize, get executive mentorship from established mobile studio executives, and marketing opportunities through Games for Change and our global network.
We are so proud to continue this partnership between Games for Change and Google Play to elevate and unearth amazing mobile games worldwide. So please check out the Games for Change website for full details on the challenge. And again, Susanna, Games for Change team, thanks so much for having me and all the amazing work that you all do.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
In our next fireside chat, Stan Pierre-Louis, the president and CEO of the Entertainment Software Association and a Games for Change board member, sits down with Jen Panettone, head of social impact and sustainability marketing at Xbox. Together, they will delve into the transformative role of video games in driving positive change across the globe. Please welcome them.
Do you want the clicker?
Yeah, good. Sure, why not?
We're planning this as we speak now.
Yeah, this is how things are done. Good morning, everyone. How's
Hi,
it going?
everyone.
Come on, there we go. Thank you. I'm from the West Coast, and if I'm up this early, all you are awake as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys so much for coming and for being part of Games for Change. I'm Stan Pierre-Louis, President and CEO of the Entertainment Software Association. We serve as the voice and advocates for the U.S. video game industry. And that means that we spend a lot of time talking to policymakers and other groups about the positive impact of video games. There's no better place to be talking about the positive impact of video games than here at Games for Change. And there's no one I'd rather be sharing the stage with to talk about that positive impact than Jen Panettone. So please give her a hand as we get started. You know, Jen, I have a lot of questions for you. And by the way, her title is the head of Gaming, Social Impact, and Sustainability Marketing. That is a mouthful. We are going to dive into that. But before we do that, I think it'd be great for people to see the amazing work that you do and get some examples of it to give us some context.
Absolutely. So I'm going to go to the next slide. What did I just do?
Let's try it again.
What did I just do? That's fun. Oh, there's our intro slide.
Okay, here we go.
Okay. So here's this incredibly amazing, bright, beautiful slide, right? And we can talk about the work that we do. So to dive into my title for a hot second, Head of Social Impact and Sustainability Marketing. Social impact at Xbox means that we oversee all the different community campaigns, the visuals you see behind me. We oversee all the nonprofit partnerships that happen with our different games and IPs, and you'll see some of my favorites in a little bit. We also have a humanitarian relief program, and as we have sustainability marketing. So there's a lot of different sustainability things happening across the business. So we work with those teams to tell that story.
And tell us about this amazing slide we're looking at.
With pleasure. So when we talk about community campaigns at Xbox, obviously we want everyone to feel like they are welcome, included, and belong on Xbox. And so we lead these with authenticity and we lead them with intentionality. Because if you don't intentionally include, you will unintentionally exclude. So each of these visuals behind me represents a community that Xbox supports within the gaming community, whether it be women or International Day of the World's Indigenous People or even environmentally conscious gamers. We work with people from every community from end to end because we want to make sure that the voices are present in the room. We work with an agency in Brooklyn, actually. They're called Palette Group. And whenever we work on any of these campaigns, we have an artist from the community. We don't ask them to represent everyone in the community because, as a woman and as an Indigenous person, I am a single human being and no one person is a monolith. So no one can speak for everyone. So we ask these artists, hey, here's our theme we're looking at. How can you tell that story? How does that make sense for you? And so if you look at that one in the middle over there, just to give an example, not the bottom, but the middle. That was for International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples last year. And Kayleen Big Knife, she is a Chippewa Cree. She put in little triangles at the bottom for ribbon skirts because ribbon skirts are worn by certain Indigenous peoples. She's also got Juneberries in there. Her grandmother was a master Juneberry picker and makes Juneberry pies, and so that was really endemic to her in her childhood. And those little green 3 leaves next to the Xbox sphere, those were actually on her grandfather's apparel from a couple of years ago. There's this amazing black and white photo, and she was able to honor her ancestors through storytelling through our platform.
That's amazing, just to see how people represent their perspective. Mm-hmm. And it is funny when you talk about how none of us is a monolith, like you just think about your own experience, no matter what your background is. Right. My parents were Caribbean, but there are very many different ways of making patties. So for those who have eaten different foods, and sometimes it's within a family, and sometimes it's within the different islands, and so you see that the representation really takes a different course. It's funny, as ESA, one of the things we do is do surveys each year to look at the player base and the player community, but also attitudes about games. And we find things that everyone in this room probably knows, but we find that people still need to hear, which is that the player community is really diverse. And by diverse, we mean it really mirrors the demographics of our nation here in the US. And in many ways, it's increasingly doing that around the world. Almost half of people who play games are women. One of the things that's been more surprising to people that we've talked about recently is the age. People don't age out of playing. You just continue playing, and you play different games, or you come in at a different time. We did a series of surveys, the Essential Facts about the U.S. video game industry, and this was our 30th anniversary as an association. So we're looking back at some of our figures over the years. In 2004, the average video game player was 29 years old, and now it's 36. And it's because more people are starting to play over 50. AARP does a study every few years around the same topic, and they're finding the same numbers. When we go back to 1999, of people 50 years old and older, 9% played in 1999. Today, that number is 29%. So it's always making sure people understand, like, it's all around you. Then you saw someone on stage a moment ago say, by the way, I played Candy Crush this morning. It tells you something about my age, right? Like, it just tells you the fact that there is a game for everyone, and we don't have to hide that. We should be proud of it. So we should talk about it more. you talk about diversity here, but you've also done some amazing work with respect to inclusion and players with disabilities. Maybe talk to us a little bit about that.
I absolutely will. So, actually, probably the first event I ever did when I became head of social impact was this event here. It's now called Gaming for Inclusion. Back then, it was the 2018 Xbox Virtual Gaming event at the USA Games for Special Olympics, Inc. Talk about long names. We always kind of iterate on
She
names.
said Inc. I love the Inc.
Yes.
Not LLC, not LLP, Inc.
Yeah, so work with me on names. We iterate. But so we have been doing this partnership since 2018. Microsoft has been partnering since 2014. When the USA Games were in our backyard at University of Washington, they said, hey, do you want to do an esports event? And I was like, heck yes, I do. But at the time, I was actually on a different team. And so I had pitched that I wanted to do video games and social impact. And they're like, hey, Jen, you wanted to step up and do this. And so we actually had national prelims for the USA Games and then flew in the winners of the different prelims across the United States. And it was so much fun because this is really the first step into the video gaming arena for Special Olympics. And we've only missed 1 year, but we have done this as an annual thing. In 2020, it was actually completely virtual. That event won an ESPN award, which was fascinating, and it was amazing because that's the first year video games have ever been nominated and won.
Wow.
And it was on my birthday. So thank you, ESPN, for throwing me a birthday party.
By the way, this is a theme in Jen's life. Like, there's always another thing that's like, it's all connected for her, which is great.
It's fun. I mean, I'm lucky to represent the work of hundreds of people across Xbox, right? And we'll talk about that in a second. But with this tournament here, you know, it's about providing insight into how, if you're going to do esports, here's how we as a gaming business can help provide insights and best practices, so that way when you eventually bring it into your programming, you know how to do it, and obviously we'll be there every step of the way.
You reference working across Microsoft, because something like the Special Olympics is probably Microsoft as opposed to Xbox or even your world. It seems like it's such a global event.
Yeah.
Tell us about how you work in your role across Microsoft to make these things become a reality.
Yeah, absolutely. So the social impact team is very lean and kind. There's 4 of us.
Lean and kind.
Yes.
I'm stealing that.
Do it. I stole it from Katie Jo. But we're very lean and kind, and obviously, you know, that's not a lot of people to do social impact across the globe, because that's really realistically our remit. So we have extended teams. We have a big, broad V team, actually over 170 people now. And the reason we do that is because, you know, for example, if we're doing a partnership with 343 Industries, who makes the game Halo. Yes, I am a Halo fan. Yes, some of my earliest memories are playing Halo. But I know that there are individuals in 343 who are better experts and will know how to make that partnership more authentic. Same across all of our IPs, and also even at the regional level. We have global scale, we have global goals, but regional attitudes and regional ways you can do social impact are different. So we have many different levels of how we kind of work across social impact to make sure it is authentic.
That's amazing. One question I would have if I was in the audience is, how'd you get your job? Because you're working at Microsoft and Xbox, doing all this good, helping Special Olympics and working with communities. Like, what was your path to this role?
Good question. So I started my career at Xbox on the policy and enforcement team, now known as the trust and safety team. And when I was there, I saw that, you know, the gaming community wanted to be stewards of their own community. And so I just pitched it. I went to every GM, CVP, VP, Microsoft has a lot of different levels, a lot of different folks, and I was just like, hey, there's an opportunity here, let me go do this thing. Didn't think it would happen at all. Just, you know,
So just taking a flyer, you're like, all right, we'll see.
Exactly.
All they can say is no.
Exactly. The worst that can happen is someone says no, and then I go ask someone else. And so I finally got to my CVP at the time, Dave McCarthy, and he saw my original pitch. He's like, I know what you actually want to do, and this is not it. So come back to me with what you actually want to do, and that's big, broad Xbox scale. And then I did, and he's like, yeah, go for it. So I panicked for about 4 days because I didn't think anyone would actually say yes. And so they made this role. We now have a full-fledged team. We have, you know, endorsement from as high up as Phil Spencer, the gaming leadership team across Microsoft. So it's a joy. It's a pleasure and a joy.
That's amazing. That is amazing. Let's talk about some of the social impact partnerships that you've done, and you all did something recently in honor of the 80th anniversary of D-Day, June 6, 1944.
We did.
So let's take a look.
We did. So I want to make sure I get this right. So as Stan mentioned, the 80th anniversary of D-Day was June 6th. And so Flight Sim added these two planes, one's a plane, one's a glider, and I want to make sure I get the name right. It is the Douglas C-47D Skytrain and the Waco CG-4A. One is a cargo plane and one is a glider. Gliders, by the way, no engine, no nothing. You get towed behind that plane right there, and then you just kind of hope you land right. But the Flight Sim team added that in to recognize D-Day because those were two planes with very important functions within the war. And so what they did is when they added them for actually through July 5th, so you still have time, this is part of the famous Flyer Bundle 9. If you purchase that, the purchase price goes to the USO, which is the United Service Organizations. It's an organization that supports active duty military and their families.
Wow. That is amazing. Before we turn to the next one, just give you a trigger warning about what you're about to see. This is an activation by Blizzard for
By
Earth
Blizzard,
Day
yep.
using the Diablo franchise.
Yeah.
So
If you're eating, I'd stop. Especially those of you who are on the video. So, Diablo. If you're familiar with Diablo, heaven and hell fighting each other in Sanctum, right? So the best thing about this Earth Day partnership, so Duriel here, motioning above me, he's the king of maggots. And this is important.
period. This is important.
Yeah, Lord of Pain, King of Maggots. But he did some good. So the Diablo team, they partnered with a nonprofit called Tiggywinkles. They're in the United Kingdom. They're a wildlife rehabber. And they were looking for a nonprofit. You know, when we talk about nonprofit partnerships, they have to be authentic. And so Duriel here sacrificed his hoard in partnership with the gaming community. It was a social activation, and fundraised 30 million maggots. It was a social campaign, so there was a post, and for every 25 likes, we would donate 1 bucket of maggots up to a nice, healthy 666 buckets of maggots, which turns out is 30 million. There's 45,000 per bucket. Don't ask me how we did the math. We had to spend a whole meeting on this once. But that is actually feeding the birds at their sanctuary for 2.5 years.
Wow, that's
right?
amazing. Well, from the undead or the dead to Undead Labs
Yes.
and State of Decay, and their amazing work with the American Red Cross during COVID to raise awareness.
Absolutely. Is this not the most beautiful vehicle you've ever seen? Yes, I heard someone say yes, good. So in 2020, as Stan mentioned, blood stores were on the verge of implosion. You know, people didn't know if they could go donate blood, if it was safe. COVID was just peak. And so the American Red Cross reached out and said, hey, how can we help with blood donation awareness? And Undead Labs immediately raised their hand and said, we will figure this out, we'll help you. So there was no fundraising element of this because we actually didn't have time. We wanted to make sure that we put something out there right away. And so myself and the director of comms for Undead Labs, we went to go donate blood first to make sure it was safe. And then we actually brought one of their phlebotomists on Twitch.
That's not a musician.
But it was really fun. And then for an awareness activation, you know, not every social impact campaign has to be fundraising. It can, again, I just gave you a very good example of no money raised. But here it was blood donation awareness. We put this in the game. And by the way, Red Cross, the first time I saw this, I was like, there's no way Red Cross is going to sign off on this. And they're like, don't tell me how to live our lives. I'm like, you know what, you're right. Red Cross's only feedback was to take the blood off the windshield. That's it. That's their bar. They felt
So
that
on the tires, the fenders, the side, the top, that's all fine. It's
oh,
just
that's
the
good.
windshield.
Yeah, it's just the windshield. That was a safety hazard. And I was
Okay.
like, that's awesome.
I see it. I
Yeah.
just see it now. I see it.
Yeah, and with the social and awareness campaigns that we did, 169,000 people signed up to donate
Wow.
blood. And that's anywhere that can save up to 500,000 people because every bag of blood's 1 to 3 people.
Wow.
And they've been keeping this going. Oh yeah, thank you. Hats off to Undead Labs, right? So, and I want to make sure I get this right. They've been keeping this going every year, and I've been authorized to say, a little secret, that there'll be some in-game content launching at the end of July in State of Decay 2, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. You're just going to have to pay attention and get excited.
That's amazing. I think we've got time for one more sample, which is Overwatch's Pink Mercy skin being relaunched. And maybe tell us about that, but also how that ties to part of your career journey.
Absolutely. So, Pink Mercy. Who here knows Pink Mercy? Absolutely. Yes, I see a bunch of raised hands. For those of you who don't know, let's take a step back. Overwatch 2, Mercy, she's a healer. Her background is a surgeon. We're talking about authenticity. There was a partnership done with Breast Cancer Research Foundation back in 2018, and that raised $12.7 million in 2 weeks. That was the single biggest donation they'd ever received at the time. And so, we wanted to make sure, the Blizzard team, they've been talking about bringing this back, and as of Tuesday, Pink Mercy's back for a couple of weeks. And if you missed your chance to get Pink Mercy back in 2018, now's the time. If you did get Pink Mercy back in 2018, we now actually have a Rose Gold Mercy bundle. And all of the money from this is still going to Breast Cancer Research Foundation. And I think that's an incredible testament to the team's want to go do social impact. The dates on that it's through July, or the beginning of July. So there's some marketing out there, there's some announcements, make sure you go check them out. And in terms of, my origin story, actually in that whole presentation I told you about, she was part of my original pitch. And so, you do some benchmarking, you do some analysis of what's happening out there. Pink Mercy was going on right as I was pitching this, or it had just happened. And so in my original pitch, I remember I had actually Call of Duty Endowment, and I had the Pink Mercy activation. I'm like, this stuff is happening and the gaming community is responding. Let's go do this. And so I think for me, this is like a full circle moment, because now I played a very small part in this. Let's be very realistic. The Blizzard folks and the folks they worked with to bring this to life are the real heroes here. But I now get to work with people who I've admired for so long, and to help them bring their stuff to life across all of our channels. So it's so fun for me to get to be able to see and do that.
Yeah. What's been amazing is hearing about the opportunity you've had to work at scale in doing some of these things. And when we were talking backstage before we came on, all the speakers who were on, Jen had worked with in some way, whether it's World Food Program or what have you, just because of the scale of what Xbox and Microsoft does. Not everyone's going to have the ability to have the scale and resources of a Microsoft, but what can people do in their own lives to think about social impact within their game studios?
It's a good question. I mean, you don't have to have a formal social impact team to go do this work. You can take a stretch project. You can stream on Twitch, realistically. You can go, whatever you have the ability to go do, anything makes a difference. $15 to a wildlife rehabber can donate a bucket of maggots, right? Or it can rehab a bird to go back into the wild, or a bag of blood can save someone's life. So no matter what you can do, you have the opportunity and you have it within you to go do this. You don't need, from where I sit, you don't need someone to tell you you can go do this. If it's in you and you want to go do it, you don't have to have the permission.
That's life advice, people. And that's Jen Panettone. Thank you so much for listening to what we had to share. And thank you, Jen, for the great work you do on social impact.
Thank you for being such a good partner. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, everyone. She's got the look.
I got it. You got it.
Hey. Did you all know that Minecraft is turning 15? It's not just a video game any longer. It's evolved into a global entertainment brand. Today we have the privilege of hearing from Eva Volandis, Director of Social Impact at Minecraft Franchises and Mojang Studios, who will take us on a journey through the power of play. Discover how Minecraft has transcended pixels and code to build a better world, one block at a time.
Hi, everyone. My name is, you got that? All right. So hi, I'm Eva Volandis, and I lead social impact for Mojang Studios, and we are the makers of a little game called Minecraft. and I am thrilled to be here today to talk to you about Minecraft and our studio purpose to build a better world through the power of play. So let's start at the beginning. What's Minecraft? It's one of the top games within the video game industry today, and it's growing significantly. And one of the big reasons is because we appeal to a broad audience, including being acceptable gameplay for parents like me. It's a game about breaking blocks and building and creating the most amazing and imaginative things with those blocks. Minecraft is the most popular video game in history and has become a global brand that's loved by so many. And now, we've not just become a video game, but we are a global entertainment franchise. And this year, as you heard, we are turning 15. When we talk about Minecraft, we're not just discussing a game. We're delving into a global phenomenon that has redefined the gaming industry. Minecraft, at its core, is an open-world sandbox game known for its creative freedom and limitless possibilities. But what truly sets it apart is its sheer scale of its impact and its reach. And as of now, Minecraft has captivated an audience that goes well beyond the millions. It's a community that spans across continents, cultures, and generations. From its humble beginnings, Minecraft has grown into the best-selling video game in the world, and these numbers speak for themselves. Also, it's not just a game that people play. It's a game that brings people together, fostering a community that's vibrant, creative, and incredibly engaged. The best example of this was during the pandemic, when Minecraft became a lifeline for so many during isolation. It was a way to socialize, a way to collaborate and maintain a sense of community. It enabled friends to continue their adventures together, offered a platform for family members that were separated by distance to engage in a common activity, and even allowed educators to create a virtual classroom to continue their teaching in an interactive and engaging environment. This period highlighted Minecraft's unique ability not just to entertain, but to connect and support its community. The game transformed into a virtual playground, a meeting place, and a creative space all in one, proving its value as a tool for social connection and community building, especially in challenging times. And that's part of its unique magic. Mojang's success with Minecraft is reflected not just in player numbers and community engagement, but its cultural significance. It's a game that found its way into classrooms with Minecraft education, helping children from everything from coding to environmental science to how to be an active citizen and build a peaceful world. And our game relevance goes far outside the classroom, with a median age of 24 years old for our players and a quarter of our community being between 35 and 65, making us truly a multi-generational global brand. But the impact of Minecraft goes much further than the game, as we see an incredible community beyond the game. From YouTube videos with over 1 trillion views to a creator marketplace to a consumer products line that includes everything from toys to clothing. And now we're venturing into a movie, animated content, and immersive experiences. It's a brand that has transcended the digital realm and has become a household name. There are people who know Minecraft who've never actually played. This level of popularity and success, this scale of impact is what defines Mojang. Minecraft isn't just a game we've created. It's a universe that we've nurtured, one that continues to evolve and expand, reaching new audiences and breaking new ground. When we talk about Mojang's scale, we're talking about a game that has become a cultural icon. It's a testament to the power of creativity, community, and innovation. And with that power comes extraordinary responsibility to continue our studio's purpose to build a better world through the power of play. We believe that Minecraft at its core is something that can be used to build a better world, and as we celebrate our 15-year anniversary this year, this purpose has been nurtured and continues to grow as our business does. It's ingrained in everything that we do, whether it be a sustainability-focused game update that enacts in real-life projects that take social impact from the digital world to the physical world, to making sure that our game is accessible for all, whether it be offering skins that let you be who you want to be, to a community server that allows people with autism to play in a safe environment, to Minecraft education that continues to inspire children and teachers around the globe to learn through innovative gameplay and lessons. Many of our game updates have been focused on sustainability, where we engage the community around a particular theme with an opportunity to raise funds and awareness for a cause. In 2019, we educated our community on the importance of bees, and Minecraft collaborated with the World Wildlife Federation with the addition of bee mobs in the annual game update, and with net proceeds of all of our bee products going to the World Wildlife Federation along with a $100,000 donation. We also had a partnership with the Nature Conservancy, where we worked together to bring more coral to the oceans in real life as we did in the game. The Nature Conservancy that year had announced their Year of the Reef initiative, and we launched 2 new ways that players could restore and protect coral reefs around the world. There was a new Coral Crafter skin pack that featured 8 seaworthy skins and 5 new types of coral in game, and net proceeds went to the Nature Conservancy's efforts to restore and protect coral reefs around the world. We also introduced coral reefs in the game. And once 10 million blocks of coral reef were placed underwater in the game, it unlocked a $100,000 donation to the Nature Conservancy to put coral into the Caribbean. And placing those 10 million blocks, as no surprise to anybody, was achieved in days. And as real-world impacts sometimes can be hard to visualize, after the Wild Update's debut, we launched the Rooted Together program that demonstrated the future benefits of mangroves without the limit of having to wait 30 to 50 years to see the change. In short, we showed what was possible in the game, and we helped fans see what was possible in real life. Conservation efforts by players and the community directly affected people and mangroves around the globe with a $227,000 donation to the Nature Conservancy, and this hugely successful campaign is shown best in video.
The Wild Update brought mangroves to Minecraft, which inspired players to protect real mangroves.
Whoa, look at this! We got another $100 dono.
We are now up to $300.
Can't believe we hit $725.
We are at 19,100. Thank you so much, everybody.
Minecraft and the community donated to the Nature Conservancy's mangrove restoration efforts that are sprouting up around the world.
Minecraft is giving these communities an opportunity to share their experiences.
Watu wajifunze mambo ya uhifadhi, hususan kuhifadhi mkoko, kwa sababu unatufaidisha sisi nyingi sana.
When looking to build a better world, that needs to be a world that's for all. So when either looking at issues facing our world, such as racial inequities, the digital divide, or green jobs for the next generation, Minecraft has and will continue to play a role in inspiring, creating awareness, and being a platform where skills can be honed and voices heard. In June 2020, Minecraft stood with unwavering support of the Black community, and in commemoration of Juneteenth, donated all profits, about $2 million, in support of the NAACP's Legal Defense Fund, Black Lives Matter Global Network Foundation, and Equal Justice. In tandem with this effort, Good Trouble was created in Minecraft Education, where players joined activists on Black Lives Matter Plaza as they stood together as catalysts seeking racial justice for the Black community. Good Trouble is a game that's available on Minecraft Education's free resources and continues to be a lesson that's taught by teachers globally. The digital divide is also something that brings inequities, and Minecraft's Hour of Code was created with the nonprofit code.org, specifically targeting young women and underrepresented communities. And since 2016, this content has been included in Minecraft Education's free resources with over 250 million plays to date. And in today's world where climate change and our planet continue to be top of mind for so many of us, green jobs are something that cities are looking into, especially our city here in New York. In 2023, we formed a partnership with C40 cities and mayors around the globe to launch the Schools Reinventing Cities program. It challenges students worldwide to use Minecraft Education to design climate solutions and envision a more sustainable and inclusive future for cities. This incredibly successful initiative has over 50,000 students that have submitted their ideas to mayors in over 12 cities. So let's take a look.
How might you make a city safer, greener, and more just? We asked this question to more than 3 million students across 7 cities. Then we gave them a way to bring their visions to life in Minecraft and share their ideas with the world. In the Schools Reinventing Cities Challenge, a partnership between Minecraft Education and C40 Cities, students teamed up to reimagine, design, and reinvent their cities for now and the future. They crafted green rooftops in London.
Lots of the colours of roofs have been changed to white to reflect the sun's heat and help prevent global warming.
And eco-conscious affordable housing in Los Angeles.
Our buildings are sustainable because they don't run off of fossil fuels, but instead run on solar-generated electricity. We've also created a basketball court for people and residents to enjoy.
Students thought about green energy, researching options for wind and hydroelectric power. They explored better systems for waste management.
Come down here, we see water turbines being spun by the water to generate energy, and when we come over here, we see a pump pushing the water back up when the windmill is in motion.
We have added wind turbines and solar panels on many roofs to give Croydon a more sustainable source of energy. We have added charging points in multiple car parking spaces to encourage people to use electric cars and make the air in Croydon cleaner.
To reduce waste and smell, we installed a new system of trash cans that are built underground and can be pulled out. Additionally, the street will operate under a power grid that connects the solar panels with the tram lines and street lamps.
And they added thoughtful, culturally conscious elements to help their community flourish.
We shall be adding a new mosque opposite St. Michael's Church, serving as a hub for the local Muslim community and promoting diversity in religion and culture.
We have also added a community garden at the center.
Top finalists will have the chance to present these reimagined cities to their mayor. Listening to these young voices is critical. One day they'll be our urban planners, architects, city officials, mayors, and residents. And their ideas will lead to a better future for all of us. Learn more about Schools Reinventing Cities and join us.
It's always a fun one. And if anybody lives here in New York, this was part of the Battle of the Boroughs as well. Minecraft has the power to build a better world, and that's beyond just the game. Fueled by a passion for change, Mojang employees alongside our wider community use the game as a foundation for change, enriching other players' experiences and acting in the true spirit of Build a Better World, inspiring generations both inside the studio and out. In an effort to bring inclusive learning to life in the blocky game world, we partnered with Microsoft's inclusive hiring team to develop game-based resources for interviewing neurodiverse job candidates that led to a hiring playbook for other companies to use in establishing more inclusive hiring programs. Ernst & Young is trialing inclusive leadership in Minecraft, where participants are exploring and understanding unconscious bias within the workplace by teleporting players into different situations where they put themselves into the shoes of somebody that may be experiencing that unconscious bias or discrimination. And as we look at how we can inspire generations of gamers with themes that are most pressing in this world, like climate change, we actively work with partners like Elgiaf, the largest tech retailer in the Nordics, that increased awareness and brought about behavioral change, creating a recycling program called Urban Miner with Minecraft, where engaged players in the larger community got to return e-waste and earn in-game currency. This award-winning campaign brought 12 tons of gadgets, of recycling them in 12 weeks, and with almost a 14% increase in the recycling in the store. And our community of 100 million plus players is formidable in the change that they want to see and are inspired to make with Minecraft. Spearheaded by one of our passionate Mojang Studios employees, Love Tropics is a 2-day charity stream that he does outside of work, and it's aimed to help the planet one block at a time. Each year, they bring players together, and they donate and raise awareness for important causes, and already have raised over $250,000 to sustainability causes. And I wanted to close with an incredible quote that I always find brings to life the work that we're all doing. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. Minecraft has always been a force for good. Our franchise inspires creativity and self-expression. It brings people together to achieve amazing things, and it produces joys to millions, whether they're crafting a masterpiece or embarking on an epic adventure. Social impact initiatives are a natural extension of that. We're making real change in people's lives and using Minecraft's reach to educate and inform about the importance of treating each other and our planet with respect. Our franchise builds a better world for established members of our community, newcomers, and those who may not have even placed their first block yet. It takes a lot to make real change in this world, and I know many of you out there know that. We're on a journey that requires steadfast commitment and the work of not one, but many of us. For us to succeed, we'll continue this path of collaboration between our teams, our partners, and our wider community. All of us in this room have the power to make change. We're all in this together, and at Mojang with Minecraft, we'll continue to build a better world, one block at a time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ava. Thank you. Oh my God. I mean, I love hearing about everything that Minecraft does, and I'm surprised every time. So we are going to be starting our secondary stages at 11:45, and we will be catching up, I promise. This stage, though, will stay dark until 12:15, which is when we're going to have our building, Whose Futures, about building opportunities for youth in using immersive technology. So please feel free to stretch your legs, make your way down to the lower levels for those sessions or to the arcade, and I will see you later. Thank you. right. Good to see everyone back. I'm excited to introduce this next session, Building Future in Emerging Tech for Everyone. Games for Change has been working with Lightshed and the Who's Future team for the past year as they develop opportunities for underserved communities to learn and create content using emerging technology. Led by Dan Ackerman, editor-in-chief of Micro Center News, our esteemed panelists, and it's a great panel, will share their experts on how XR and generative AI can be harnessed to build more inclusive online spaces. So please let me welcome Dr. Courtney Cogburn, Gabo Aurora, Clayton Banks, and of course, Dan to the stage.
So I think you go all the way.
Is this one?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you guys go down.
All the way down.
Oh, all the way down. Okay. Hi. Oh, wow. I almost don't need a microphone.
Hang on, I'm going to get one quick, cool-looking selfie for everybody because you know what? Social media is part of the job description now and has been for years. Well, thank you, everybody, for joining us today. I'm very excited to be here at this great panel. My name is Dan Ackerman. I'm a longtime tech and games journalist. I was a reporter at CNET for many years. I was the editor-in-chief of Gizmodo. Now I'm the founding editor of a new tech and news site called Micro Center News, and I'm very excited to have all these guys with me today. And we're going to do some quick introductions, but then we're really going to get into the heart of our topic, and we're going to talk about that. But I am joined here, and very excited, by Clayton Banks on the very end, and Courtney Cogburn in the middle, and Gabo Aurora here. And I'm going to ask each of these panelists to just give us a little introduction, what you're about, why you're here, why this topic is so important to us. Clayton, let's start with you.
I'll start with me. Let me check ChatGPT first. See, who am I again?
Oh, we'll be talking about AI on this panel.
Oh, okay. I'm Clayton Banks. I'm the CEO of Silicon Harlem. It's great to be here, obviously, and it's great to see all of you here. Silicon Harlem does three really important things, in my opinion. We are very much about access and exposure for technology for everyone. We know how important that is. Number two, we do a lot of research. I'm on a call right now with the Department of Defense on things like the vulnerability of 5G and things of that nature. And the third thing is we are all obviously helping so many people just from an educational perspective. So come by our office. We're in Harlem, Silicon Harlem, and you'll have a lot of fun with us. So thank you.
Oh, Courtney?
Hi, everyone. I'm Courtney Cogburn. I'm a professor at Columbia, I'm a psychologist, social worker, population health scholar. I study the effects of racism on health, and I came to emerging technologies like virtual reality to think about how to help people more meaningfully engage the realities of racial injustice in society, and that work has led me more deeply into the intersections of emerging tech and social justice. Happy to be here.
And of course we have Gabo.
Great. Hi everyone, great to be back. I love this festival, and I'm always glad to be back here every year. I'm the founder and CEO of Lightshed.io. It's a creative technology studio that uses virtual reality and emerging technologies for social impact. I've been working with virtual reality over a decade. I was at the UN where I made Clouds Over Sidra, which was the UN's first foray into using VR for impact and empathy. So really happy to be there. I'm also one of the co-founders of whosfuture.org that aims to diversify emerging tech creators. And so hopefully we'll get to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, I'm really fascinated by that. And you actually have a real quick video we're going to look at just for a second to show a little bit of that. So if we can play that video right now, then we'll come back and talk a little bit more about what we mean by building futures in emerging tech. So let's play that video. There we go.
I like technology because we could communicate in many different ways that we haven't before. For example, you can be in VR and you can be in a whole different world. I'm excited to learn how games could change other people's lives. I feel like technology can tell people stories. It can open people's eyes and it inspire others to change their ways.
I like making video games because, I play them, so it's cool to make it myself to see what goes into making the game.
Like the coding blocks, it would look like different puzzles to me, and I just saw like how technology could be like a puzzle where you could connect some pieces and it can make a whole different thing.
I just feel like it's a lot more things you could do now. Like, it's so much easier.
It'll help us be more efficient. Like when it comes to working and for us contributing back to our environment when we go into the future. I'm excited to learn more about the community because this is a community-based project. You get to like do something for the community. It's just like nice to give back.
Nice. That really, I think that encapsulates a lot of what we're talking about here today when we talk about democratizing access to technology. And I know that some of the things we want to talk about are, how do you make technology like what we saw in there, accessible to people in different communities? How does virtual reality and the metaverse figure into this, even if it's not the hottest topic in the world like it was a couple of years ago, but still so much happening there, and how it ties into, the next big thing, like AI, and the next big thing after that. It's all going to have a part of metaverse and AI to it. And then, how does technology and education come together? That's something that's very near and dear to me. It's something that really affected my life as a kid, but we'll talk about that a little bit later. But I'm going to start, actually, Gabo, since we just saw that video. Tell me a little bit more about the Who's Future and Who's Metaverse projects and about what I saw there, which was young people becoming creators rather than consumers of content. And how do you get them to make that leap?
Yeah, about 2 years ago, we're coming out of the pandemic, and I could really see that, there's just rampant inequality and lack of access. And I really thought, what could we do with what I do, or we do, with emerging technologies to diversify people who make these things. And I think a lot of the problems we have with the internet, technology, is because it's a very homogeneous group of people who have dictated design, have dictated how these technologies are brought to market. And myself, I grew up in New York, and I wasn't, I learned, I was, maybe 10 years ago, I'm in my late 30s, not very technological, and I basically started learning virtual reality, and I realized that it was the best way to learn about it was through storytelling, was to try to tell your lived experience, and I really wanted to do that at the UN. And also, in doing that, it gave me a voice at the table for policy, because it's not only about learning these things for a job, it's about the future of humanity. I think we are in a very, tenuous time, and I think if you have diverse voices who understand this technology as creators, then I think it would be better. And so that's what Who's Futures does. It's a curriculum, it's for after-school programs. We have a site in Harlem, we were in North Carolina. We had gotten a fund from the Immersive Learning Fund from Meta, and we were also honored by the Webbies for what we were doing. So it is an after-school program, but it also is an XR platform. So the idea also is young people could learn the way they're used to playing. So very much like Fortnite and Roblox, these sort of curriculum is kind of built in a 3D way so that they could kind of learn, a lot of these skills in the same way they're used to kind of playing in digital spaces. I just want to give a quick shout out because Ariel is here, who's in the video, and one of our teachers, so really happy to be here.
Yeah, that's interesting. It takes you from playing to learning about the tools to using the tools to becoming a creator rather than just a consumer. I like what you said about using VR and metaverse, especially for storytelling, because I think that's a lot of what Courtney has been working on with her big project. And I'd love to hear a little bit more about the 1,000-cut journey and how storytelling relates to that in a different way than what Gabo is doing.
Yeah, so when we developed a 1,000-Cut Journey, where we put you in the shoes of a black male experiencing racism at different points in their lives, we were interested in translating what was evident in the empirical literature around inequities, the effects of structural racism, and trying to move beyond that kind of data or representation of a social problem into something that was more visceral and relied on narrative and storytelling. And as a psychologist, I was interested in whether that actually had an impact on people's beliefs and attitudes and behaviors. And so we started to study the effects of that kind of experience, and we see evidence of that, right? We see evidence of changes before and after someone goes through the VR experience, shifts in things like color blindness or a willingness to acknowledge the significance of racism in society, which I think is significant. And I think moving in a direction connected to this notion of whose future, I'm beginning to grapple more with not only representing the ills of society, but also thinking about what do we do about it? What do we put in its place? And that is a question of imagination and futuring. And I think the kinds of voices that are featured in Whose Metaverse, in Whose Futures are critical voices for thinking about where do we go from here? What do we build in its place? I think the young people who have experienced the gravest inequities in society are probably best positioned to imagine what should go in its place. And I think creating spaces and platforms to leverage their imaginations, to have them engage and think about the future are critical. And there's another tie into my work around health where not only is that critical to us as a society, whose voices, whose imaginations are we living in, and who's designing our future, but what I'm interested in now is whether the act of doing that, the act of thinking about yourself in the future, the act of imagining, the act of designing something else, that in and of itself might be beneficial to health. That in and of itself might help someone move beyond sort of the ills or chronic threats of the current moment and see themselves in the future. So I'm curious in that space as well.
It's really interesting to me how that project in particular, and I think you said something similar, is about changing attitudes and changing perceptions. Have you noticed that? How can you explain the difference between that being able to perform that task versus handing someone, a scholarly article or some data or something that's a little more, impersonal?
Yeah, that gets tricky to measure methodologically. Is sort of comparing how someone might respond to, say, a research article versus virtual reality. But anecdotally, what we're observing is, and I should say that in our VR experience, we deliberately target a white liberal audience. So I was really interested in how that group would interact with this kind of content. And what we've heard them say is that they sort of they're moving from someone observing or intellectualizing a phenomenon in society to realizing they have a relationship to it. They are in it. They are not separate from it. And I think virtual reality allowed us to, through immersion, right, put people in the experience and move them closer to it. And one of the things that came out of the experience were people saying their whiteness was more salient after coming out of this experience. The contrast of lived experience was so clear to them, which I thought was quite powerful. So it's not a news point to be considered and debated, it's the air we are all breathing, and I think virtual reality helped to bridge that a bit more.
And I think VR and Metaverse does have that all-encompassing immersion that can affect you differently than a film, even a very well-made one, documentary, television show. I think it's really interesting, but all of these projects involve making sure that people have access to VR hardware and headsets and the computers on which to create applications and create games for VR platforms, and getting comfortable with that. But getting people that access, I think, is very hard. And I think that's something that Clayton has worked on through Silicon Harlem and other projects, basically getting kids access to technology. And I would love for you to tell us just a little bit about what that journey is like, what kind of technology is most important to get in front of people, and how do you actually go about doing that?
Well, thank you. It's very difficult to speak after her, all right? She's got a PhD, she's a doctor, I don't know.
That's why I saved you for last.
Whatever.
But she's great, and we've known each other for some time, so I don't say that. And Gabo and I have been working together as well. You're new, Dan, but anyway, we still like you. But see, it's something very close to me, to what you're talking about. I'd love to just check this audience out. Do you put your hand up if you know the percentage of people that don't have internet in Upper Manhattan, like Harlem? Does anybody know that percent? Do you believe like it could be 0? You know that's not true. It's 35%. 35% in the community do not have internet every day. And if you go to East Harlem, it's 40%, 45%. That was 10 years ago, and it's still the same now. And when you look at that, those, like maybe somebody who's going to high school or junior high school, do not have a computer. Why would you have a computer if you don't have the internet? So they have to use their phone to get things done. It's impossible, so they end up on the street. And I think that is something that we all should feel something about that. And I've been working very close to the mayor and everybody else, multiple mayors, to figure out how can we make sure every single home has internet. Because once you just give them the access, and I'm glad you used that particular name, Dan, is that if you can just give the access, because I hear too many people that will say, well, they need the education, Clayton, to get internet. How many of you had to go to like school to learn the internet? I mean, really. If you get the access, you'll figure it out. And so what I've done is, particularly when COVID came around, it became a disaster. That's when the mayors and everybody started listening to me, because I was talking about this way before. And so when the COVID hit and we saw kids running all over the place because they had no school going on, they didn't have any infrastructure to even get into schools. And so I went ham on this, and I went all over these very, very rich people, big companies, and was able to get thousands of computers and get it out to as many homes as I possibly could. And even the mayor ultimately decided we should do that too, but there's some homes that have more than one kid, right? So then you also need multiple kids in order to get their work done. And so we worked really hard to make sure that we get that access to them. Once they have it, they get going. It's not oh, help me, how do I do this? No, they get it right off the bat. That's why most of them can run me around and most around with a phone, for example. So they can do all that stuff. And the same thing what we did is we also created opportunities for them to go ahead and move forward, right? Not only with typical educational things in school, but you could come to our facility and learn about even more additional things that would put them in a not only for a process to go into a college, but also even for jobs. And I think that's something we all got to get around some of that, because here's the thing. If we don't do that, you're going to see more crime. It's going to hit you at some point. So it's all of us. We can't just think, oh, don't worry about these people. No, it's going to impact all of us. It's really clear in my mind how that can happen. And I've been in places all over the world, and I've been in places where everyone has the internet. Oh, we're the greatest city in the world. I'm a New Yorker. I love it. But if we want to really be the greatest in the world, everyone's got to have that access and exposure.
I really like what you said about you don't need to also make sure you have training for kids to learn to get online and use the internet. It's almost instinctive. It reminds me of how we were talking a little bit about how a certain generation of kids became digital natives, and then after that, the next generation became VR natives. Now they're going to be AI natives in a way that we, are not going to understand, but it's going to feel very natural for them. And this is, also as a native New Yorker, this has affected me personally. I think I told you this story. I grew up in a part of the Bronx called Co-op City. And there in my local public school, grade 5, 6, 7, 8, they happened to have a little room of like Apple IIc computers, not to date myself, but the fact that they turned all us kids loose on these, we learned how to do some basic programming our own, made our own games, not just for schoolwork. They just said, go up there in your lunch, just go nuts. And that's why I'm a technology reporter, all these years later. And it's because I had that early access that was provided through a public school, which schools were at least starting to do a decent job of during COVID, making sure every kid had a device at least. Or what did you think about that? Did you feel the city did a good job of making sure every kid had a device? Because I know that at least an attempt was made during COVID.
Well, at least in Upper Manhattan, where I do a lot of work, something was really bizarre. The teachers didn't know how to use the internet.
Oh, that's true.
They didn't know how, they didn't have computers. There wasn't a lot happening of that in Upper Manhattan. So there was a whole nother level of me and my team is to work with the teachers so that they could actually work with the students. I mean, it really became a whole new educational system, if you will. So where you grew up and where I grew up, where it wasn't as digital as it is now, what we had access to was a little bit more easy. But now, when you got to buy a computer and you got to pay a monthly thing for an internet provider, it's tough. And what we try to do our best now, and I think the libraries do a lot more, is get people access to it, right? When you look at the library system, the problem is now it's starting to have lines of people trying to get to a computer. So there's something wrong here. We got to do more. We got to do more better. And I think, you know, look at all of these great, I always say to people, you know what? I'm a tech guy for a long time. I've built a lot of stuff. I was just telling them, I'm right now on a call right now with the Department of Defense to deal with 5G vulnerabilities right now. I'm into this stuff in a deep level. But I realize something very clear to me. You don't fall in love with technology. You got to fall in love with people. And when you learn how to fall in love with people, everyone can win. Because I can, in top of my mind, I won't show them all, but 10 things I can talk from technology that we all went crazy for and is gone. Like, how many remember something called Blu-ray? What happened? You know what I mean? So there's a lot, I can like nail a bunch of these things. We gotta love people and help each other. And I think that's really sort of our next level when we come to looking at humanity.
Well, it's interesting. One technology that did have a giant burning hot moment in the sun was the metaverse, so much so that Facebook renamed itself Meta. And some of that fire's cooled off, but it's still underlying so much of the interesting work that's going on right now, especially in games. Gabo, tell me a little bit about the continued life and afterlife of the metaverse, especially in an area that has been so dominated by Facebook/Meta and now Apple and these other big guys. What does the metaverse mean for you now? How does it relate to mixed reality and virtual reality? How do you keep it relevant when it's quickly becoming something that is, in most people's minds, identified with like a $3,000 Apple headset that's just unachievable?
Yeah, well, I mean, hype cycles come and go, but what doesn't change is a little bit what Courtney was saying, was whether it's for education, simulations, healthcare, entertainment, there's just, if you design it right and you get it right, and there's a lot of research, you just have a deeper connection to the material. So I think that very truth will always make people, continue to invest in it, because I do think when it works right, you just have an impact that you wouldn't otherwise. I think, I'm seeing a lot of uptick in trainings and education, especially with, there's an app on Quest called Prisms that tries to teach algebra and math using VR that's showing a lot of success. I'm doing a lot of things with medical and nursing students to do simulations that are very hard because you need an expert that comes in and teaches to you once a semester. But if we capture them in volumetric capture, if we use elements of AI where you can interact with them when they're not there, there's a lot there. I think AI, not to kind of talk about the next hype thing, in some ways, the metaverse and VR was always going to merge with AI because it's very expensive to build virtual worlds. And when you can do that using generative AI, which you can do in a simplistic way to build worlds and games and other things, that's only going to kind of lower the barrier for people to create these worlds. And I think, there's a lot right now with avatars and using them as virtual tutors in those spaces, where people can not only engage with material in a spatial way to understand it, but they can connect with someone who can kind of give them that one-on-one support, which studies show that it really is that one-on-one support that leads to more retention for a lot of people. So that's why there's a big race for an AI tutor to be as good as it can be. So that all in the metaverse, combined with it, is going to make it come eventually. I don't know when, but it's not going to die.
Now that's really interesting because I like what you said about connecting with AI tutors and having that sort of almost one-to-one connection. What I liked about the Thousand Cut Journey, Courtney, is that it is a kind of single, you're in the body and experience of a single kind of narrator within the experience. How do you see a way that AI can help with that, can expand that, can move it into different directions versus being a kind of one-time, kind of almost a ride that you go through?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way I'll answer that is coming back to this question about imagination, which I think we are living in a failure of imagination in so many ways because we have such a limited scope of voices dictating where we go. So it's one thing, right, for me to have an opinion about VR, the metaverse, or AI. I think we're always going to fall short of possibility if we don't diversify whose voices are actually being centered in doing this work. So I could pontificate about AI and how it might influence VR, but I think the way I'll shift the focus is we have to expand not only access and building infrastructure and access to hardware, skills building, et cetera. We have to sort of really leverage as many voices as possible. I don't think VR or the metaverse will be successful at all if we don't expand whose voices. We're just going to replicate sort of the same old things we're doing right now in society, and along with that, the same inequities that we currently have if we don't increase or change the voices we're centering in this work.
So how do we then get 5 more, 10 more, 20 more projects like that made from that group of voices that is not represented in 99.9% of metaverse content?
I mean, I think it's a shift in mindset, right? We have to shift the mindset to say that, one, do we value perspectives that are different than our own? And again, I think you made a point earlier, which I completely agree. There's a difference between treating young Black kids in Harlem as consumers as opposed to saying, no, they are critical designers of the future. And that shift in orientation becomes really important. And I think from there, then you get investment. Then you invest in things like Whose Futures, right, to help expand that kind of access in Silicon Harlem. But that shift in mindset is really critical. They're not just game players, they are creators. And they're not just creators, they are critical creators because of how they understand the nature of marginalization and injustice in society, if equity, positive social impact, right, is the goal.
And some of the most popular game platforms, they're really more platforms than games, whether it's Roblox or Minecraft, encourage game making to such a huge degree. And the barrier to entry is not zero, but it's low.
It's low,
I think that's really interesting. What I've seen as the parent of a preteen is that so many kids are interested in being creators. And some of them are interested in being game creators, but a lot more of them are interested in being video creators, whether that's on YouTube or TikTok, which is a perfectly valid form of expression. But I think there's a lot more to be gained about pushing them into being interactive creators. How do we do that and make that more appealing than making TikToks?
Mm-hmm. I think that's what's most interesting about the metaverse. For me, is not whether it actually exists or if it will exist, but for me, it represents a symbolic opportunity, a sort of a digital tabula rasa, right? A blank slate. If we are going to reimagine society or community or what schools look like or work or what neighborhoods and cities look like, it becomes a space for us to start to do that. And again, whose voices are we privileging to create that kind of space? So letting them create with an existing platform and low barriers to access, I think is wonderful. But I also think the symbolic, it doesn't even exist yet, type of imagination and encouraging that among young people, young marginalized youth in particular, I think is really, really important.
I would like to make, and similarly, the sooner you learn, whether it's the metaverse or these emerging technologies or AI, the reason we focus on like cutting edge tech is that the sooner you learn it, the closer you can take advantage of the opportunities, And I think, people look at hype cycles and everything, but these are the jobs of the future. And I think for a lot of our students, we are portfolio based. Everyone comes out of it with portfolios of what they've built. And we find that they can already integrate. CUNY has a gaming pathways concentration that I'd like to shout out that most people don't know about. But we're becoming a feeder eventually to a lot of those things. And young people, when they realize that this could be a career, and then it becomes very exciting. So I think that's why we start young and we start with emerging tech, because then they're going to be the first person to have more of an advantage than any other population. And I think that's very important that we're not just doing this retroactively and playing catch up. We're giving the best to those who need it the most first.
Please, let me just ask you, when you talk to kids, young people in your community, what are they asking for access to? Are they asking for access to VR gear, high-end computers, AI? Do you get a lot of questions about how do I access these AI things I've heard about? Or how do I access a Quest 3 or the tools I need to make this stuff? What are the requests?
Everyone here, you're invited to come to my office. I would love you to come. I think we're one of the unique places in Upper Manhattan. We have all types of cool technology. We got tables that are collaborative. You've got all these different screens. You got VR all over the place. We got PS5 or whoever the
Gamers.
people know what I'm talking about. We got it all. So here's what happens. We'll take on multiple kids, and we know you've got a question to ask. We can't wait to get to it. But when we have the kids come into the office, I always tell my team, sort of help them understand what each piece is. And one day I was like, what are we doing? Open the door, let's see what happens. Those kids go all over the place and they start using stuff, and I'm like, wow, because we got robots, we got all types of stuff, and it turns out that people, whether they've never had it before in their lives, they go to it. And then they'll go to something else, and then back to where they love. And actually, we have a lot of things that they can use their hands, build a plane, build a drone, all these type of things done in our space. So I've come to reality is, if it's there, somebody will figure out how to work with it. I think the issue that we don't talk enough of, and I'll finish it with this, is if you have grown up in a way that if you're in a, let's say there's just no money in the house, right? You're in a poor situation, maybe public housing in some case. You don't eat right, so you're eating crappy food. The schools that you have to go to are not as much as it would be at a more better school. And so there's fundamental things that we got to think about our neighbors. We got to really help that basic platform, and internet is one of those pieces of the platform, in order for people to be able to walk into my place and do that. As a matter of fact, when I started in 2014 with Silicon Harlem, there's basically no technology happening in Harlem at all. I was in meetups all the time down here. This is where I did all the meetups, were always down here. I loved doing it. And I said to myself, what if we did a meetup in Harlem? This was 2014. I said, what if I did a meetup in Harlem? And anyway, if you probably have been to a meetup, you're happy you're out 15, 20 people talking about all crap, whatever you're working on. So I brought up to Harlem and I said, man, if I can get 15, 20 people to come, and when I put it out there, 500 people came. So some of this is just like, give people a shot, you know what I mean? And we've been doing it every few months for the last 10 years. So I hope that helps.
I'm going to tell you, we are sadly out of time, but I don't care. We're going to keep going for another few minutes because I know people want to ask questions. I want to get these questions. If you got a question, shout it out or find somebody with a microphone.
You're going to say, why haven't you
There we
left
go,
yet?
right over there. A microphone is coming your way. Oh, it's right there in the aisle.
Or I'll just walk up here. Hi.
Hi.
Hey.
I know that this panel was specifically towards everyone. I can't help but notice everybody here is in New York City. So then that's not to slam on the panelists. What I'm trying to get at is I think about our rural communities as well too, where access, similar numbers of Harlem and East Harlem, where 35-45% do not get access. Would it be something? Thank you. What would be something that is more of a universal truth that you have learned, maybe apart from your location, but more with the groups with which you work, that could be beneficial for others in unsimilar locations?
Well, I'll just give you my opinion. So I have a specific way of thinking of how everyone gets the internet, regardless of where they live. And it requires that the governance have to be a part of it. In Biden's $1 trillion thing that he put out, a lot of it came for internet. And the areas that are being favored is rural, actually, because they just know that in cities it's dense and it's easier. rural is a lot of space. You give somebody internet here and you got to walk 10 miles to the next person. So the providers find that to be very difficult to do. It's really not. But you're absolutely right. This is not just for Harlem or just for a city or just for the hot spaces to be. It has to be everywhere. You have to do that. So I think the money that governor has right now is about $600 million. A lot of it is going in upper New York for the most part. We're getting some money here for the city. At the end of the day, nobody tell anybody else this outside of here. I'm trying to put whether it's through governance or us as people, why don't we create municipal broadband? Like water and electricity and everything else that gets subsidized and all this other stuff. Why don't we do that with the internet? It's as essential as is those things. Yes, that's what let's do this, serious. Because if we do that, it doesn't have to hurt these big guys with the internet, right? So if you want a gigabit of speed or 10 gigabits, you got to pay the extra money. But everyone should have some level of internet. Does that help?
And I would just add that if we continue to, with any emerging technology, whatever technology we're talking about, if we continue to privilege wealthy, white, urban voices, we're going to end up in a place that's boring at best and dangerous at worst. And so, and this means diversification very broadly, that we're going to be missing critical pieces of imagination, information, data, knowledge, and input if we don't engage as many people as possible. That would be my takeaway.
I'll say I totally agree about municipal internet, but a lot of the big access providers have lobbied against that for many years, and in a lot of cities have actually had ordinances passed that bar public support for municipal Wi-Fi. Do we have any other questions? Yes, please.
Hello. Hello.
Hi.
Hi. I wanted to ask about, I love the fact of you were talking, hitting upon, if you build it, they will come. And just having the access first to having all those things like the computer, the VR headsets, the consoles and everything, and then just having kids play, which is the best thing that you can do when you want to foster creativity and you want to show them that they can do things. Do you guys host like really cool, like, you know, information sessions during these play sessions of like, hey, let's touch upon AI, let's touch upon ChatGPT, let's touch upon, if you want to get into game development, let's touch upon, if you want to get into creativity in the tech space. You know, do you have like speakers volunteer to talk? Because I feel like when you see someone that looks like you that's doing that, that is what opens doors in your head. You know, it's the different thing when you have a mindset, when you don't see someone who looks like you that's, you know, in a place that's doing something creatively, and they love. So, like, I was just wondering, like, how you guys are doing that here.
Are you volunteering too?
I mean, I live in Virginia. But I just remember the first time I saw someone that looked like me that said, you know, really I'm doing this, and I didn't think I had like barriers in my head, but it really did open up my opportunities and my mindset of like, okay, how do I connect with you and how did you get there?
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm going to be long. No, I'm kidding. I'll be very short. So I'm glad you talked about that because it's so important. And for us, at least for me and my team, we bring in kids for a full summer time frame, right? Several weeks and months. And one of the things that's really cool, where they start and where they finish is 100% different. 100% different. They come in with very, why am I here? What is going on? And at the end, they're like, I'm going to college. So the point is, a good example is we'd love to hear more about AI, Mr. Banks. What about AI? And I laugh at myself because I've been around AI a long time. And people talk about, well, I want to learn more about AI. Well, you can't just make AI. You got to learn something, right? What's the fundamental of AI? Anybody know what the coding that you use for AI? Right, Python, right? So we teach kids how to do Python. And it turned out just last year, we're getting ready a whole new cohort of kids this next week. But last year, we were teaching them Python, and one of the kid's never been a coder or anything like that, but got into it, and she has become one of the greatest Python developers I've ever met. And she's going to a great university,
Awesome.
and she gets, I don't care if she ever becomes a Python programmer forever, but she loves it. She was, and we saw, and many of the teachers do that. I mean, a lot of the kids that we have do that kind of stuff. So it's really, I'm glad you brought that, because this is good stuff. That's good stuff.
We've got time for one more quick question. If anybody has one, yeah, go ahead. Real quick, because apparently it's lunchtime, and
Hi, my name is Igrim. I work for a layer 1 blockchain based between Dubai and London. And first of all, thank you for all of the insights. I found it really, really amazing. My question is, how do we overcome the barriers for mass adoption for emerging technology? Because people are so skeptical, and yes, we do have to educate, but on day-to-day, what actions we can take now for mass adoption? And also, do you think should we wait for big players to adopt emerging technology for its mass adoption, or we can do something right now, on the ground, to take it forward?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's always the chicken or the egg, or the hardware or the content, And for most people, let's say I'm an early adopter, for me, it was having access to projects that I think showed the possibility of these technologies. I think most people don't know that there are these incredible works, and I'm happy to email you or to let you know. For me, the best way I get people to early adopt or to just get into it is I give them these 10 things to experience. And I think a lot of it are already on a headset. If not, you could do it on a website. It's just about getting them to realize that new technologies create new emotions, create new sensations, is amazing, and possibilities. So I think there's a canon of work that has been at film festivals since, Shari Freelo at Sundance Film Festival has been doing this for over 15 years. And that body of work, if you just saw a sliver of it, you would change your career, you would change what you'd want to do. It really is that kind of experience. So that's what I would say, is to get access to that kind of storytelling experience that changes what you're going to do.
Well, that's
Thank
a great
you.
answer to end on. Thank you so much. What
Thank
a great
you.
panel this is. Thank you, Clayton. Thank you, Courtney. Thank you, Gabo. I'm Dan Ackerman from Micro Center News, and thank you so much for joining us. All right.